This conference will now be recorded.
Hi, and welcome to Navigating the Now, a series of conversations that I'm having with some of our practitioners and facilitators in the belief repatterning community during this COVID time, because I just thought people need a little bit of support right now. And so today we've got Ali Saunders, who's based in Edmonton, one of our facilitators and practitioners in the belief repatterning community. Welcome, Ali.
Hi, thank you. Nice to be here.
So maybe we could start with how did you kind of find belief repatterning, and then we're going to talk about how you've been using it to navigate through these interesting times.
Sure. So funny story. I was introduced to belief repatterning without knowing it. Hang on, I need to turn off. Sorry, I meant to turn off my heater before we started. It's a little cold in my office today. So I had the privilege of working with a woman who studied with you and was a practitioner by the name of Julie Tulin. And she was one of my mentors. I had a home-based business or a multi-level marketing, network marketing business and she was my leader. And so she was such a fabulous coach. She invited me, after I'd known her for many years, she invited me to an inner critic to inner coach that you were doing here in Edmonton. It was one of the first ones that you did 5 years ago, I guess. And I just sat there the whole time enamored with what you were saying about having learning how to repattern your thoughts. And at the back of my mind, I kept saying, that's what Julie says. That's what Julie says. Julie's taught me that. And yeah, and so I jumped in full force. Came to flip your switch and then began to study with you. It's something, and really what led me to this moment, Suze, is I have a 10-year-old daughter, and when she was born, so when, by the time she was 2, I was starting to learn or making the decisions that I didn't want her to grow up with the same thought processes that I had. And I wanted to, so I started learning how to train my brain, and just really discovering the stories I used to tell about myself. I wanted to be able to put that in a light for her so that she wouldn't repeat, because I've noticed in my family there's a repeat. And so that's really what led me to wanting to this self-exploration and journey. So I've been a practitioner for 2 years and am now a facilitator in some of the programs, and my daughter is now 10, so fabulous.
Yeah, and that it's so true, isn't it, that we will do things for our children that maybe we won't do for ourselves, and so yay, Abby, for
For
being.
leading me here, exactly.
So, I know that there's been a lot of gifts for all of us in the COVID time, and it's pretty easy to focus on what's been taken away. But I'd like to just focus on, what are some of the gifts? What are some of the awarenesses, that have happened for you and your family during this COVID time?
Yeah, we've at the beginning, when we none of us really understood how long this was going to go on for, it was just okay, a couple more weeks, and we just kept looking for that light at the end of the tunnel. And I soon got into a routine where we just were present, and we're present to what the day was bringing. And at the time, Abby was doing online schooling. She hated every second of it, and she didn't thrive. And so instead of having that struggle of making sure she got her schooling done, it became more of a conversation, and it became more of a let's learn together, and let's spend that time together. And what I really loved is the fact that my work kind of shut down. I work outside of belief repatterning. I work in healthcare, and I support seniors. And sometimes they were in facilities, and sometimes they were in their homes. And so a lot of my seniors, their family stepped in to be their primary caregivers. I could no longer go into the facilities because of COVID regulations and keeping everybody safe. And so I found myself with a lot of time on my hands, which was beautiful because Abby was home and I was able to spend that time with her. And we had a beautiful summer. The weather was fantastic. We spent a lot of times outdoors. We took a lot of day trips and went for walks in Elk Island. And we did stuff that we wouldn't normally do because we weren't so busy and so at full capacity. We just really got to be. And yeah, and it was fantastic. And still is. She's in school now, so so I'm not trying to homeschool with her, but yeah.
Yeah,
So
and
I think that was it. It's just really being present to what was going on.
just to underline that just being present to what is, rather than the, oh, we can't, there's not. It's what is present. And it's one of the things that I've like, I just, whenever anybody's saying, oh, and I'm going, you know what, I've slept in my own bed with my partner every night since like the 10th of March. That hasn't happened ever.
Well, exactly, because you were on the road so much.
I was on the road, and so the being home, and do I miss being on the road? Yeah, I do. And I love that I'm home. And, I'm laughing because people talk about the COVID-15 and they put weight on. I've released weight because I'm not eating in restaurants and fast foods and on the road. Like, I'm eating well and I'm exercising every day. And so there's absolutely gifts that are there should we choose to look at them.
Yeah.
And I'm hearing that what you decided in your family is you're going to choose to look at the gifts. And then.
Yeah. And and that's what belief repatterning has really taught me is being able to be present and being able to see what the gifts are in any given situation. Yeah, for sure.
Because they're always there, aren't they? Yeah. It's like what's the good part about this?
Yeah.
I remember,
let's make it fun.
Yeah, I remember a previous partner of mine saying to me, no previous, but he said to me, you always say it's all good, even when it's not all good. And I'm like, it's because it's all good. Because if I don't believe that it's all good, then I don't know how people get out of bed. Really, like, if it's all bad, it's like, gosh, that's awfully hard, and if it's, I'm not sure. There's a great story about a set of twins that at Christmas time were given an envelope each, and it was a what do you call it? Where you have to run around and find things. Treasure hunt.
Yeah.
Okay. And so it was, go here, go there. And they were running all over the house. And they finally both end up at the same time at this little barn structure out in the backyard. And then they open up the barn, and it is piled high with manure. Like, it's just like, it reeks. It's horrible. And the one little kid goes, oh, great, I got a pile of it for Christmas. And the other one's in there like this. And he says, what are you doing? He says, all this poop, there's got to be a pony. And so, where's the pony? Because there is a lot of ick around for people. People are concerned about their jobs. I'm not sweeping it away at all. And repatterning doesn't. Right? There's people that don't have work, or they're not having steady income, or they can't see the people that they love, or they feel like their freedoms are being restricted. And, we were talking earlier on one of our calls within the community. I just said, we can look at government restrictions. I prefer to call them community health guidelines. Community health guidelines I can get behind. Restrictions, every part of me goes, don't be restricting me.
Yeah. And that's just it. We can look at because it's not safe, or we can look at because we're keeping ourselves and our friends safe. And it really is just a matter of semantics. It's a way of looking at it. It's reframing your thoughts around that. It can be ick, or it can be what's good about it.
Yeah. So I asked you if you had like one try this on practice that people are listening, that maybe something simple that they can do, because that's one of the joys of belief repatterning, is that it fits into an already busy day or whatever else you're doing. With these like simple little practices, is there one that you've come up with, or one that you've adopted or adapted that you'd like to share with whoever's listening?
One that was brought to my attention again recently, and especially during this cold snap, is if the only thing that you do today is to stick your head outside and take 5 deep breaths. We're not going out for our walks. You know, our whole plan this February was to start adding a walk. And so we're not going out for a walk. Not at a minus 40 wind chill. I'm going to stay inside my house. Stick my head outside. 5 deep breaths. That will get you centered. It gives you that fresh air, and that brings you into a place of calm. And try that on if that's the one thing that you do.
Beautiful. Thank you. And that's so simple. It's so simple. And I'm going to just do a little kind of look at my halo shine. I've been outside every day. Even in the day, the day was minus 46. I rugged up and went out for a walk. And my daughter said to me at one point, this is a couple of months ago, she said, there's no such thing as bad weather. There's just bad gear. And I remembered hearing that when I was a Girl Guide, right? Just make sure that you've got the gear on. And so I realized that a couple of weeks ago that I wasn't, because Phil only goes out if it's like minus 10 or warmer. And he grew up in Australia. He does not have the Canadian gene, you know. He's lived here for a while, and so I totally get that. But I was using that as my excuse to not go out. And all of a sudden I went, wait a minute, why am I letting somebody else's way of being affect my decision and my well-being? And so I was just like, I'm going for what. So I used that to kind of give me the impetus to get out. And it wasn't I'm going to show you, it was that I'm going out, right? And so I wrapped myself up. And anyway, I came home, I think it was Wednesday, and Phil said, you know, I would go out with you, but I just don't have a warm enough coat. So I've been thinking maybe I need to buy a parka. And I'm like, well, seriously, you really only need it for about 2 or 3 weeks when you live in Calgary area. And so I said, I have a parka that's, you know, the size smaller than I am right now. Would you like to try it on? And he's like, well, will it look too girly? And I'm like, a parka is a parka. Like, it doesn't really have fashion sense. You know, it's just called keep you warm.
So and we all know that Phil looks great in pink.
Exactly. But anyway, he put it on and he said, is it okay? And I'm like, who's going to see you? Nobody's out there except you and me. And I said, and you're going to see how stunningly beautiful it is in this weather, right? Yeah. So he gets all rugged up, but his face is showing, and he's got his top, you know, he's got his scarf on and a nice little tie. And I'm like, no, the scarf has to go like across here. And I said, and in fact, I find my COVID mask is great because I put that on and then I put my scarf over top. You know, I have a headband that's here, and he said, I've got a hood, I'm fine. I'm like, okay. So we get, you know, a few minutes down the road and he's going, oh, I feel like I just ate a gallon of ice cream. And it's like, yeah, little brain freeze. He's like, maybe I might have learned something from the girl who walked both ways to school uphill in minus 60 weather in northern Alberta. This is like, because there was nothing about when we were growing up, there was nothing about parents driving you to school when it was cold. You just like put your, you know, you had a scarf or a headband that went here and another one that went here, and your eyes stuck out like this, just enough so we weren't going to get hit by a car that might be going by, you know.
And then we had the little frosted eyelashes when we got to school.
Exactly. Yeah, and you learn to take your, like, I remember taking my glasses off and putting them in my toque, and then putting my toque on, because if you left your glasses on, your face froze, you know. But it's that just reframing it. And you know, we were out there and he was just like, oh my gosh, I had no idea how beautiful it is, because the only time he'd ever been out in that cold of weather was in a car going someplace else. Like, you can't be present. This is my point. You can't be present to the moment and just see how clear the air is. So then he asked me to take a picture to send to his relatives in Australia because he didn't think that they would believe it. And what came back was, oh my gosh, is the sky really that blue? It's like, yeah, it is. Yeah, it is when you're able to be in that. So I see that somebody said that they feed the birds and the wild rabbits in your neighborhood. That's lovely. And we like to open up for questions, comments, curiosities, how-tos. I'm experiencing. Ali's your gal, so pop your mic on. I'll call you by first name. Who's got something to relate or something to wonder about, or how do I get my head around? We're here to support. Going once. All right, then how about something that you've done, that the people that are listening, something that you've done that has supported you? Ali shared her being really present, going out for walks, getting the fresh air. What's been supporting you during this time? Claudia, go ahead.
I've actually been finding that I've been feeling really lost. And part of it is in the fall term, I was so busy with so many different courses that I was teaching online. Now that I only teach maybe half the hours that I was doing in the fall, I'm going, what am I doing with myself? What do I do? And it just, the motivation was missing, the deadlines were missing, and yet when I'm looking around, it's like there's so much that I can do that's been waiting for me because I haven't had time up to this point. So I started making a list. To-do lists work really well for me because then I can take my overwhelm out of my head and put it on paper. And I started making a list, and every day I love, Suze, I did the 21 day before Christmas, and I love your 10 minutes a day. Take one thing on that list and just focus on that for 10 minutes. And if it turns into 3 hours, great. I've got the time. But at least it gives me a sense of purpose and a sense of direction, and keeps me focused, because I find if I feel lost like that, my default is to go into depression. And then it's really hard to come out of that and get refocused.
For sure, for sure. Once that cycle starts going, right? And that's what we've learned is, you know, we can keep digging, or we can see what's on the other side of that. And really, that's exactly it. When we get so busy, and then all of a sudden there's a change. And I think that happened with so many of us when COVID first came to Canada, is we were busy doing stuff for our kids. We were going grocery shopping 3 times a week. We were doing this, we were doing that. We had all the stuff that we were so busy doing, and then all of a sudden that was done. It's like, oh, okay, well, I don't have to drive my child to 3 different activities in the evening.
Yeah.
And now I'm no longer, I'm either shopping online, or I'm going less often to the grocery store and making sure that I plan what my meals are for the week. And now I'm not driving. That commute time. I was speaking to our principal at school, and he said, you know, for all of the meetings that I am on during the day, if I had to be at those meetings in person, it would take, my day would be 10 hours long because of the commuting. And I just think that that's such a huge thing that we didn't think about. And now we've got that gift of that time of, okay, now, and don't get me wrong, you know, I always said I'd have a perfectly clean house when I had time. Well, that wasn't the reason. The time wasn't the issue. So, but now we can start to think of, yes, let's do what are the things I want to accomplish in the next month, or in the next 6 months, or this year. What are the things? I loved listening last week. Sarah was your special guest, Suze, and I loved listening to her of how she took this time of having her husband now home, now to be with the kids, and she could have the time to do the things that she had been desiring to do for so long. And you know, she's been part of a few publications and things like that. And I think that's just such a beautiful gift that we can give to ourselves. And instead of getting into that overwhelm of now what do I have to do? Take a breath, take a beat. Let's relax into it. It's not what do I have to do? What am I missing out on? It's now what? Now what do I want? What do I want to bring into my life that's going to support me and ripple out to others, for sure.
Beautiful. Yeah. Beautiful. You know, I was reminded as you were both chatting about when COVID first started a year ago, and everybody was like, I'm cleaning out my closet and I'm cleaning out my drawers and I'm doing this. And I'm like, I am like you were saying, Claudia, I was like flat out getting as much of what we had promised to people be online so that people would have access, because I knew they were going to need help to get that mind shift happening. And so I was flat out. And I remember saying, so it might be, I could, I guess, take blame for this. I'm teasing. But I remember saying, I hope COVID lasts long enough that I can get my cupboards cleaned out. It's like, what if it ends before I get that stuff done? And one of the things that I've been asking people through this is, how does your future self want to think about your past self? And then how does that affect the decision that you make in this moment? Because mark my words, each and every one of us for the rest of our lives will be talking about before COVID, during COVID, and after COVID. It will be a landmark, like the war was for my parents, right? It'll be that, because it's this huge shared experience. And so my great grandkids are going to be saying, Gran, what happened during COVID? Tell me about that. And I don't want to be sitting there going, well, I sat in the Chesterfield and ate Doritos for a year, like, and binged on Netflix. I want to be able to say, oh, well, these are the things that I learned, and these are the things that came true for me. And part of it is I've got a jigsaw puzzle on my dining room table all the time, right? Because I can, because in normal times pre this, we would have people come over and I didn't want to leave it out, but now there's nobody coming at the dining room table. So I sit down at the dining room table, and sometimes I do it every day, and sometimes I walk by it for 2 weeks. So it's kind of like reminiscent of the ones that you see in retirement homes, right? They're just there, right? And I kind of wander by, throw a couple pieces in, and just that, having that space to breathe. Claudia mentioned the transformation. It's available to everyone. You don't have to start it at any specific time. I happened to do it just before the new year because I felt it was timely, but it's a really great 21 days because we're all in transformation. We're all in transition. Each and every time that the guidelines change, we're in another transition, and that's part of life. And so that's there and available for people. It's 21 days, and it's about a 5-minute to 7-minute each day, just a little tweak, something to think about, and some really quick activities. So if you're interested in that, that's available. I'm noticing that Jessica put into the chat room, it's been about not needing anything to be any different. Great sense of peace and full acceptance of the way things are.
Yeah, that's beautiful. And coming to that, we talked about so much what's going to happen when this is over. And, now we have, a new normal. This is every transition, every time we go through something new, it's a new normal. It just is. It doesn't have to be the new normal. Exactly, Jessica, what if it's never over? Well, let's find that peace like you did. Let's find that calmness of just being. And as long as you are being who you really are and being able to support yourself and being able to navigate through some of the ick around what's happening in our world, then just be and be at peace with it. And it's beautiful. I want to show you, I don't know if you can really see it, my shirt. I got this for Christmas from my daughter. As I mentioned, she's 10 years old. And she saw it at the store. She had gone shopping for Christmas with her dad. And she was like, oh, that's Mom. I have to get that for Mom. And I just thought, I love that she recognizes that I am giving out positive vibes. And I love that she knows that's who I really am. And she reminds me when I'm not being who I really am. And, one of the things that has helped me navigate is having her, having my husband, having us together as a family, and having the group hugs. And, so when she recognizes that I'm not being really me, she'll come up and she'll say, can I give you a hug? And that just centers me back, because she's recognizing that that's something that supports me and grounds me. So what if it's never over? Well, it's never going to be over. So let's just let it be and find peace in it.
Beautifully said, Ali. And, you know, it is the normal. And we've got time for one more question. So if somebody wants to pop their mic on and or their camera or type something in the chat box while we're waiting for that, I'm just going to relay this, which I think is really cute. You know, when it first started, we first began wearing masks. And I remember being out in public and seeing these little kids, because we said that little kids didn't have to wear masks, right?
Mm-hmm.
And seeing these little kids, and I was like imagining them that's sitting there going, I wonder when I'm going to get my mask. Like, I wonder when I get one of those, right? And what's really, so that was like a year ago. And what's really interesting is that I'm hearing so many moms telling me that their little ones want to wear a mask because that's their normal, right? That's the normal. And so it's very interesting how we can shift like that. Mary's popped her camera on. Go ahead, Mary.
Yeah, well, firstly, I believe that COVID is going to pass. It's going to be over. It'll be however, another seasonal thing maybe, or whatever, or not. Although I think what we learn from it, yeah, maybe we'll wear masks more when we're ill and, or, you know, a little bit of cough and you go out and we don't get so many colds and flus and all the neat stuff. What I'm enjoying is getting past, you know, the fear stuff and into, oh, you know, this is really interesting about these new vaccines and how does that work and how did they come up with that, or you know, what really works in a public emergency, you know, a healthcare emergency. Like, we're going to look back and go, oh, well, you know, we could have done things this way, right? And you know, I want, you know, and I'm reminding myself to focus on that because I can get sucked into the, oh, you know, so and so should have done this and so blah blah blah, and it's sort of like, no, you know, this is like, we're learning as we go here, and
Yeah.
we can't undo what we didn't do. So that's learning I'm getting from this time and from listening to you and Ali and other people that are, you know, being able to focus that way really helps me focus that way as well. So thank you.
You're welcome. Yeah, the shoulda, woulda, coulda, you know, is so non-supportive. I gave that up a long time ago. We are learning lessons and we can look back at everything that's been going on and we're learning as we go. And that's the beauty of it, though, in this day and age with media being the way it is, and we have so much quick access to stuff, we're learning quickly. And the lessons are coming forth and we're sharing those lessons. And I think that is such a beautiful thing that is coming out of this. And you're right, Mary, we are going to take forward these lessons that we've learned into what happens next. And yes, just having that and sharing that information and just being able to learn those lessons is super, super important.
Yeah, absolutely. And I want to pick up just quickly on what Mary said about the, you know, the shoulda, woulda, couldas, didn't, now what? And, you know, there was no guidebook. Hindsight is 2020, but if you spend your time staring in the rearview mirror all the time, you're going to bash into what's in front of you. So let's be looking forward and learn from and move forward with. And that's why I really super appreciate you being on with me for Navigating the Now. We'll be back next Saturday, same time, same channel. And this is going to be put up on our YouTube channel, so you can check that out at Learn It Live at YouTube, as well as it'll be on the Belief Repatterning Facebook page. So if you want to send this to friends, let's ripple it out. I like Jessica's comment that she initially panicked about how working from home was going to affect her career. And I remember my daughter saying, oh, the kids are going to get behind. And like, behind who on what? There's no behind. There's just an is. This is just their experience of being 10 or their experience of being 14 or their experience of being 21 or my experience of being 63 or, you know, it's just our experience at this time. And I think what really counts is how we show up. And Jessica goes on to say that there was a shift and she began appreciating the time with her kids and getting time to snuggle and going, so yeah, how do you want to be? because nobody got a guidebook when we landed here, and we're writing the guidebook as we go. And the best way I know to write the guidebook is to show up as you. So super appreciate you showing up as you, Ali, and being here for people. You're going to be online on the exact same place in 15 minutes. Do you want to talk just a quick little bit about that? Because it's complimentary, and what have you got to offer?
For sure. So the workshop is called Inner Critic to Inner Coach, and it's an introduction to belief repatterning, to how to support you and how to be who you really are. So join me in 15 minutes for about an hour or so.
Totally complimentary. Yep. And thanks for being here.
Thank you. Thanks for having me.
Happy Valentine's Day weekend, Family Day weekend, because that's what we're on right now. Stay warm, stay well, and we'll see you on the flip side.
Thank you.